Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome. It is hour 2, time for Toker Talk Radio. Glad to have you here. I'm Radical Russ, coming to you live and direct from beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. It's a beautiful time here in Potland, and this weekend we will have one of the largest cannabis expos in the world, the Indo Expo, taking place at the Portland Expo Center, and Cannabis Radio will be there to cover it. I've been told we have a 20 by 30 lounge booth extravaganza planned for you, and that I will be manning the desk and doing interviews all day. So, going to be a good time. We might even be live streaming. I think they said we're going to be live streaming. We'll find out. I'm always skeptical of how that goes with these expos with their lousy Wi-Fi, but we'll see. We'll see what they got. This should be fun. So we'll be there all weekend. And for the second hour, a bunch of just stray thoughts running around in my head, but I should get to some news first. Jackie in our chat room brought forth this breaking news that the former Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Guterres, leads the race to be the next Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, this is not news. It came out about 2 weeks ago. But for us drug reformers, this is fantastic news. If the former Prime Minister of Portugal becomes the head of the UN, that could mean a huge change in international drug reform. See, the country of Portugal in 2001 decriminalized all drugs. Personal possession of all drugs is decriminalized. And since they've done that, they've seen nothing but great results. Everything we drug reformers have always said would happen, happened. Addiction rates went down, overdose rates went down, crime went down, people using didn't change much, right? So, except for the hard drug addicts, they're haven't changed much, but they're getting older. Their average age is older, so they're not replacing with new addicts. So, to have that guy go back and head up the UN would be fantastic. I was there for the conference, the general session, special session on drugs, and there is no leadership from the top on the UN on this. And so the UN is still held somewhat hostage by these regressive countries, Pakistan, Indonesia, China, Saudi Arabia, these kind of places that still behead people for drug trafficking. So to have a guy at the top who knows that reforming our drug laws works could be a huge step here in our international drug control. I'll keep you posted on this. I'll try to look up some more information on this this United Nations. It was just a straw poll, nothing official yet, but it did kind of sort out. There was, I guess, 12 different candidates for the new Secretary General position. They've narrowed it down to 5 out of the straw poll. One of the candidates remaining is female. The UN has never been led by a woman. But I don't know. I'll forego having a woman run the UN. Let's get a woman president and a UN Secretary General who knows the war on drugs is a failure. Let's do that. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to get some perspective, taking a look at the United States presidential race from across the pond. Great story out of the UK on our marijuana legalization and medical initiatives throughout the various states, some of them swing states like Colorado, Nevada, Missouri, Florida, and how that may or may not affect the U.S. election. Be right back.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Every strain, every sale, every medical study. Keep it right here on the Cannabis Radio Network. Cash? Sorry, I don't carry around cash, and I don't want to use the ATM and pay surcharges.
You don't need to carry cash. Haven't you heard about PayQuick?
Okay, tell me about PayQuick.
It's the safe and easy way to pay. It works just like your debit card to securely pay for your purchase, and it gives you rewards points every time you use it.
Nice.
PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
This is the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on CannabisRadio.com. And don't try to debate me on something. Motherfucker, I can't do many things well, but words are my shit.
The Stoner Jesus Show, live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Or find the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on demand at CannabisRadio.com and StonerJesus.net.
Peace, bitches.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Are you playing an acoustic guitar but want to be louder without an amp? Try a resonator guitar. The fingerboard extension has National Resophonic and other resonators, square necks and round necks. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com. Go wild hog in the woods.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 9 after the hour here at Cannabis Radio. Glad to have you here. Oh, yeah. So I want to go back to the election. And again, if you're just coming back to the show after a hiatus or something, and you're like, why are you talking so much about politics? Why won't you talk about weed? Talk more about weed. Well, this is a political show about weed, so we're going to cover politics because politics affect weed. And also, I'm going to try to keep as much of the politics as I can in hour 2. So if you're not into the politics, just listen to hour 1. And I'm increasingly getting this attitude, folks. I'm sorry. I'm at the point now where I'm going to say what I feel and let the chips fall where they may. Anyway, let's go to this story coming out of The Guardian in the UK. And it's a story that says, with cannabis on the ballot, can Clinton and Trump cash in on the pot vote? And it's interesting because we've got marijuana on the ballot in 7 states so far. Likely to be 8, could be 9 or 10. Let me run them down. So you got legalization in California, Arizona, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Maine. Now, nothing about marijuana being on the ballot in California is going to affect the Clinton-Trump race at all. Hillary Clinton will win California. It doesn't matter. So we can forget about that. The Arizona race and the Nevada race, marijuana could have an effect on this election. Both Nevada and Arizona are uncomfortably close to being swing states. Nevada is definitely a swing state. Could go either way. Arizona is more likely to go for Trump. But in the case of Nevada, this is going to be interesting. And then Massachusetts is going to go for Clinton. We don't even have to worry. Marijuana won't have an effect there. And then in Maine is not likely to be a swing state either. But Maine's interesting because Maine splits its electoral votes. It's not a winner-take-all state. Both Nebraska and Maine split their electoral votes by congressional districts. And in Maine, you got a situation where one district is more urban and is likely to go to Clinton, but the other district's more rural and is kind of a toss-up. So it's a swing district, right? There's another place marijuana may have an effect. And both it and Nevada, Maine and Nevada, it is Nevada, by the way, not Nevada. The Maine and Nevada races offer up an interesting situation because both are states that have one or two big cities and the rest of it's very rural, right? Las Vegas and Reno, and the rest of it's desert. Portland and Augusta, and the rest of it's woods, right? So similar situation. And we know that the rural voters hate pot. That's generally the way it works. In all the states that have legalized so far, you look at those counties, those rural counties generally vote against it. So how much turnout is pot going to generate in the rural counties, bringing out those voters who would also perhaps vote for Donald Trump? And the other thing that's the other side of this, of course, is the medical initiatives. We've got medical on the ballot in Florida and Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is not a swing state. That's going to go to Trump. But Florida is definitely a swing state, and it's the biggest one. There are 29 electoral votes in Florida. Now, where this could help Hillary Clinton is the fact that we are talking about medical marijuana in Florida, not marijuana legalization. Medical marijuana in Florida needs over 60% to make the Constitution because of the way their requirements are there. Medical marijuana lost with 58%, so people know that it's close and could win this time. Seniors are increasingly educated, thanks to Bobby Platshorn and a bunch of other people down there, on the medical use of marijuana. Seniors vote their ass off. And seniors, especially women, like Hillary Clinton, or at least will vote for Hillary Clinton. So I really think that the medical marijuana vote in Florida is going to turn out more voters for Clinton than it does for Trump. I think medical marijuana could be helping Hillary Clinton in Florida. Arkansas, again, not going to happen. And then there's the other states that might make the ballot. Well, Montana's on the ballot. But Montana's a toss-up either way because Montana's got an initiative that expands medical marijuana back to having dispensaries and another one that reinstates prohibition. So, both sides are drawn to the ballot, right? Whether they're for or against. And Montana's another one of them states that's likely to be a red state, but gets a little Democratic sometimes. It can tilt that way at times. It'll elect a Democratic governor or a Democratic senator from time to time. So I can't tell you what marijuana is going to do to Montana. It's just there's two different issues going on there. Missouri is likely to make the ballot with its new approach, Missouri medical marijuana. Missouri is a state that could be a swing state. Medical marijuana, I think, again, is going to be something that would probably help Hillary Clinton on the ballot there. And then there's a long shot at North Dakota making the ballot, but North Dakota is going to go to Trump. Nothing's going to affect the vote there. But in the analysis that we find on The Guardian, it's quite interesting because they point out how a presidential election brings out younger voters. And younger voters generally support marijuana legalization. So with legalization being on the ballot, should even have a greater pull for the younger voters. And that's where it gets dicey, is because among the younger voters, they're not Clinton supporters. The younger voters who are Democrats overwhelmingly favored Bernie Sanders. And many of them, the latest poll I saw was that 30% of former Sanders voters, Sanders supporters, are going to vote for either Gary Johnson or Jill Stein. 30% of the Democrats who supported Bernie Sanders are going to vote third party rather than vote for Hillary Clinton. So, and that number, I'm sure, is much greater the younger you look. So this is a weird situation in that greater voter turnout among the young people is going to normally help the Democrat. In this case, may not. It may just help the third party. Now, there may be some silver lining in this, and that would be that young people are the least likely to vote in large numbers. Does marijuana bring them out? If it does, that could harm Hillary Clinton a little bit. They also bring up Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson and how he's very popular. Like I said, the poll I saw that was 30% between Johnson and Stein, it was 17% Johnson, 13% Stein. So very popular among those disaffected Democratic voters. But how is the legalization on the ballot? Is that going to bring out more of that Gary Johnson support? And it's something to consider here, because in a state like Colorado, with legalization on the ballot, and Johnson has campaigned in Colorado before pretty prominently in 2012, at least for a third-party candidate, I should say. And he's always been, Johnson's spoken at hemp fests and cannabis cups and things like that. So the cannabis community knows Gary Johnson pretty well and knows that he's great on the marijuana issue. So I could see Gary Johnson having a pretty big effect on the Colorado vote. I could see him getting a lot of votes in Colorado. The question is are those votes that would have come from Trump or would have come from Clinton? And one of the things I'm thinking now is that these people that are never Hillary, and this is the point that I made, in some of my first articles, was Hillary's not losing a vote for me because she never would have gotten my vote. But it does make you wonder, what if it wasn't Hillary? What if it was, but not Bernie Sanders? What if it was some, Martin O'Malley or somebody? Would he be getting the vote? I think he would, right? So the folks here that are saying they're not going to vote for Hillary because she never had their vote are people who would have voted for any other Democratic candidate. So they are losing the Democratic vote. And this is kind of another part of the epiphany. And I hate to say epiphany because that is like at one moment I suddenly changed my mind. This was a process that took a long time. But one of them was a comment I read from someone on the net that went along the lines of, your vote isn't about you and the candidate. The vote is about us and the party. Okay? And at this point, Hillary Clinton is just the person who is occupying the space for Democrat. And it's not whether or not she did something to you or you have to punish her or your conscience can't be held accountable for a rigged election. It's us. Can we survive 4 years of this Donald Trump presidency? Would we be better off if Hillary Clinton was president? And that's where I started to change my mind, because as much as I hate Hillary Clinton for a number of things she's done and a number of things like I've listed many times, I couldn't live with myself if I helped Donald Trump. I just couldn't.
Ain't just me, by the way. I don't see you doing any better in the booty department.
Of course, if I had my way, folks, the Constitution would have a 12-year term limit on any federal office. You can be a representative for 6 terms, you can be a senator for 2 terms, you can be a president for 3 terms, and that's it. After 12 years, you got to get a new gig. Hell, I'd even do that with the Supreme Court.
We have your smoking section right here. This is the Cannabis Radio Network. Thousands of cannabis professionals convene this August in Portland, Oregon, to the city responsible for $500 million in cannabis commerce. The Portland Expo Center hosts Indo Expo, August 6th and 7th. Indo Expo has seed to sale covered all weekend long, with educational seminars and over 250 exhibitors. Lights, nutrients, trimmers, extractors, greenhouses, cutting-edge grow gear, genetics, smoking accessories, and more. Free admission for buyers, store owners, and MJ industry professionals. Visit www.indoexpo.com.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Adrian, I finished it. I got Adrian.
Okay, maybe you're high, too.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Pod 2.0. It's not your father's Woodstock weed. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 23 after the hour. I was just making my proposal there at the end of the rant. Let me flesh that out a little bit. I've never liked that our president has term limits. And originally, our president didn't have term limits. Originally, under our Constitution, you ran for president, people elected you, you're president. You could keep running. And FDR did. FDR won 4 elections. Franklin Roosevelt won 4 elections. Why? Because he was a damn good president. The people kept putting him back, saying, hey, this guy's doing a kick-ass job. Let's put him back in. But the GOP didn't like that much. One guy, one party kept winning all these elections. So they put a cap on it, and they helped pass, the 20th Amendment that puts term limits on the president? 22nd? One of them. That basically requires that a president can't serve any more than 2 terms. Because that's what George Washington did. And originally, that was what was keeping presidents at 2 terms, by the way. There were other popular second-term presidents. They just didn't run for another term because Washington never did. Washington served 2 terms and he was done. And it always been kind of just the standard, kind of the habit, just accepted as the way it is. And then FDR said, screw it, I'm running for a 3rd term, and won, and ran for a 4th term and then died during his 4th term, but still won the 4th election. And they didn't like that. Well, we can't have one man have that much power for so long. We just can't. That's not right for America. So let's put term limits on him. He can do 2 terms, that's it. And part of what bothers me about that is there aren't term limits for the other offices. There are senators that have been there for 30 years. There are congressmen that have been there for 30 years. There are justices that get lifetime appointments. So why is it okay for those people to maintain power for generations, but not a president? Especially if, again, someone's doing a good job. Now, one of my folks in the chat room brings up the point about money in politics, and that, hell, if we take money out of politics, who cares about term limits? Because then the only way they get elected is if the people elect them. Yeah, that's true. If we could get money out of politics, it would all be fair. If I were 7 foot tall, I could dunk. But those aren't going to happen. I don't see money getting out of politics. Even if we are like getting Hillary Clinton elected and we start pushing towards Citizens United, getting an amendment against that, take out the big unaccountable money in politics, there will still be money in politics because money exists in the world. Money exists in our society, and it's how things get done. So I don't see money exiting politics. I can see a lower influence of it, a greater influence by the people, but it's not leaving politics. It's kind of like the death penalty for me, right? Like I'm ideologically in favor of the death penalty, but I'm practically opposed to the death penalty. Like ideologically, first of all, it's in the Constitution. The penalty of death is in there for treason, and it says life, liberty, and property can't be taken without due process of law. Well, that says then with due process of law, you can take those things, and life is one of them. So ideologically, constitutionally, I'm on board with the death penalty, but practically, when you look at trying to exercise it, it's cruel and unusual punishment because we got too many people that have been railroaded, convicted of crimes they didn't commit, serving time on death row who are later found to be totally innocent. So from a practical standpoint, I'm against it, right? Anyway, that's kind of a diverting off topic. The topic being term limits, right? So ideologically, I would be against term limits because, indeed, the people would elect the politicians, and so who cares how long they serve? If they're great, let them serve. But practically, I know that the people don't have all the power here, that congressmen and senators can be bought and owned because they constantly have to fundraise and so forth. And then I think about also how in the last 2 years of a president's second term, how much they talk about how, he lets his hair down and lets it all hang out and really goes for it because he doesn't have another election to have to deal with. Wouldn't it be nice if more congressmen and senators had their last term where they knew they weren't running for another election and could actually take a stand on things? Maybe that would be a good thing. So here's my proposal, fleshing this out a little bit. Let's have a term limits amendment that says at any elected federal position or level of federal court, you can serve no longer than 12 years. So if you got elected to Congress, 2-year terms, you can serve 6 terms in Congress, but then you're done. No more terms in Congress for you. Now, it's not stopping you from running for Senate, not stopping you from running for president, not stopping you from getting appointed to a judgeship, but you can no longer be a congressman. Same for the Senate, 2 6-year terms. You got your 2 6-year terms, you're done in the Senate. You can go run for Congress, you can try to run for president, become a judge. And for the presidency, 3 4-year terms. 3 4-year terms, 12 years. You can go back to the House. You can go back to the Senate. You could become a justice, but you can't be president no more. And then for the justices, for the judges, district court judge, appeals court judge, Supreme Court judge, 12-year appointment. Now, one of the things that would be nice about the 12-year appointment to the court is it would end the guessing game of, well, this judge, they're so old. Are they going to retire? Are they not going to retire? They might die. We don't know. There'd be some certainty. You'd know every election how many justices were going to be replaced each term. Also, Also, with this, you're not eliminating someone from being a lifelong political servant, a lifelong, I should say civil servant, right? A lifelong elected official. You could just be like Bernie Sanders, where you're in the House for 12 years. Was he in for 6 terms? I don't think he was in that long. But you're in the House for 6 terms. Then you go and become a senator for a couple terms. Then you run for president. Maybe you become president, run and get reelected for 3 terms. You've spent 36 years in public service. Hell, maybe after your 3rd term as president, you get put on the Supreme Court. Now you've spent 48 years, a lifetime, in civil service. Something to think about. Something to think about. I think about this a lot. Hey, if we're going to have, if term limits are a good idea for the president, then they're a good idea for everybody. If they're not a good idea for everybody, let's get rid of them for the president then. God, I wish I was voting on Obama this year. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, my goodness. Anyway, let me get to some more marijuana stories here. There's a story in dopemagazine.com entitled "The Cannabis Commercials Are Coming," and it talks about how we are still being rejected by Facebook, Google AdWords, things like that. And of course, television and radio and such in some places. And we're still facing the laws that we pass, these marijuana legalization initiatives that we pass, wherein we get regulations that say you can't advertise on this, you can't advertise on that, your advertisement has to have so little, it has to have this much of a warning label, etc. But even with all that, even with all these obstacles, the commercials are coming. And they point out a couple of commercials now that are making its way to YouTube. One's a cannabis retailer out of Washington State. Another is a couple of other growers that are now starting to make their way. There's a commercial for a vaporizer, a 15-second vaporizer commercial that's making its way. And this is something that's going to be an interesting battle to fight. The advertisement for legal cannabis products. Because one of the things our opponents are going to harp on is WOTC. What about the children? And we're still laboring under this idea that we can't promote marijuana, right? And this is one place where we're in a disconnect with, I think, the rest of society, right? Like those of us in marijuana, we're like, hey, it's legal, it's okay. And for most of the people, legalization is really more like, all right, we'll stop locking up the potheads, right? So from our point of view, we feel like, oh my God, it's legal. So it's just like beer and you shouldn't be discriminating against us. My God, we should be able to be out in the park smoking weed and playing Frisbee and going to bars and smoking weed and having shops with weed and billboards with weed and commercials with weed. And the other side is like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. I thought this was just about not being cruel and locking up the potheads and stupid and wasting our money on cops. Where did this whole billboards in my city with big old buds on them, where was that a part of this deal? This is a weak point for us, folks. It's something we got to watch out for. And I tell people this all the time. People laugh at Kevin Sabet. I'm telling you, this guy is not stupid. He is not stupid. He knows where the weak points are. Now, I don't think he's got enough ammo to bust through those weak points. I think we've got a better, more moral position. But never underestimate your enemy. Never underestimate your opponent. He's smart by going after this big tobacco, big marijuana scare that he's trying to put forth, because that's one of the weak points. It's that cultural weak point. The culture is what's been keeping marijuana illegal for the longest time. I've said forever that it's not that people hate pot, it's that people hate potheads. And that's what Kevin Sabet is banking on, is that the more legalization happens, And the more there are pot shops and normalization and people just openly smoking and billboards all over the place, the more he can take a few of those photos, put them into a PowerPoint, take them to people in Omaha, and scare the hell out of them. And the more that happens, the more, and this is something I've been thinking as well, is that as legalization unfolds on a state-by-state basis, it's going to unfold like it unfolded with medical marijuana. The first few states are going to be pretty cool. You can have pot shops and grow your own, and it's going to be great. But as legalization keeps progressing, more and more of these states are going to be state-run grows, a few limited grows, state-run pot shops, licenses you have to buy to be a legal pot smoker, registries perhaps. It's gonna be more restrictive as it passes in more and more of these states, because they're going to freak out about, oh my God, we're letting loose this culture. Our streets will be overrun with potheads. So we'll keep our eye on the advertising game. And for people on my side, I should say, be judicious with your ads. Try not to rub it in their faces. Make it look classy.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
Educator, author, and advocate Dr. Mitch Earlywine is here to tackle the burning issues.
And I'm here to clear up the myths about cannabis and burn them away with science.
CannabisRadio.com presents a no-holds-barred platform that seeks to redefine and revolutionize the entire scope of the cannabis culture while opening the door for more to join the cannabis crusade.
Dr. Kevin Hill.
You can't ignore the fact that, like alcohol, most people who use don't have a problem. So I think that you need to think about policy in that way while educating people properly about marijuana. I think that's the way to go.
Burning issues, only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Pod 2.0. It's not your father's Woodstock weed. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 39 after the hour. And in this last segment, we're going to get a little personal. Not personal against you. Personal about me. But, yeah, let me figure out how I'm going to get into this. Let me start at the beginning of my radio career, because it was never my intent to get into radio. It really wasn't. Like, so far away from anything I had ever imagined would be a part of my life, being on the radio every day, talking about what I think. I won a contest. There was a national contest in 2006. I entered it, and what do you know? I won. I was as shocked as anyone. I had no political experience. I had no punditry experience. I had no radio experience. And I won a political talk radio contest nationwide. Hundreds of people entered. I won the damn thing. So that kind of caught me by surprise. Like, whoa, who knew? So I had my political talk radio show on XM satellite for a couple years. It was during the last 2 years of the George W. Bush administration. So it was like T-ball because I was on a liberal talk radio network. So going after Bush every day for whatever stupid thing he was doing that day was just easy, okay, from a political standpoint. And I built this fan base, these fans that really liked me because, and of course this where the Radical Russ thing came in because I was kind of off the cuff and not, all buttoned down. I was more, willing to tell it like it is and, talk in plain language kind of guy. So I built up this following and I'd get these regulars that would call in, and truckers and people listening to satellite radio from all over the country and the world for that matter, who would listen to my show regularly. And I got to know some of them and kind of, in the sense that, I see your name coming up and we talk from time to time, right? Regular fans. So this was all the way through the end of the Bush administration. And then Obama won the election. And then Obama became president. And I had my show was on for about, it was canceled on my birthday in 2009. So I was in for the first month of Obama being president and his transition as he was president-elect. And throughout that time, as it became obvious, he wasn't going to prosecute the torturers and he wasn't going to lobby for public option with, live webcams like he'd promised. And, as things were beginning to look like, hey, wait a minute, we're going to get some of the same old stuff we got under George W. Bush, I started calling him out on that shit. And wow, did my fans turn on me. Oh my God. What are you, a Republican? Are you a shill? You turned coat, blah, blah, blah. But the complaints I was making about Obama were exactly the same complaints I'd made about Bush months before. But because now I was attacking their guy, I was an asshole now. Hate Russ. So I've been through this, right? I've experienced this from my fans. It's not a new thing for me. And then there was another incident that happened. When I was working for Normal, and I was doing Normal Show Live, the predecessor to this show. So I was doing Normal Show Live, and I built up a fan base there too. A lot of normal folks listening and would show up in the chat room all the time. We had webcams too back in the day, and I was doing video shows. So people would show up on the webcams regularly, get to know them, see their handle, chat with them time to time, right? Well, one of them was a guy who's kind of, what do you call it? I call it woo-woo. The new agey, crystals, Reiki, energy type people, right? Woo-woo. He was a little woo-woo. And one time in the chat room, he was bringing something up about astrology. I don't even remember the context, but I knew it was something about astrology. And I went off on a rant on the show talking about what bullshit astrology is. It's bullshit. Astrology. By the way, if you're listening and you think astrology means something, sorry to break it to you. Astrology is bullshit. It just is. First of all, the astrological signs, when they were first determined thousands of years ago, and the people, this constellation controls the people born at this time, right? When that was all figured out, those times don't match those constellations anymore after thousands of years and calendar shifts. I'm not really an Aquarius. I'm really a Capricorn or some shit, right? And second of all, the idea that the placement of stars thousands and millions of light years away in a certain pattern has an effect in any way whatsoever on the people that are born at that time is ludicrous on its face. So, anyway, I went off on this rant about astrology being bullshit. This guy was so pissed off at me that he disappeared. I never saw him again. Hated me from that point on. Never saw him again. So I bring all this up because, as you know, I've been going through these Facebook battles because I was the Bernie or Bust guy, and I wrote all these articles that were so popular about how Hillary Clinton's an evil beast, and now I've changed my mind. And one of our fans, John Thomas, who shows up almost daily in the chat room, isn't there today. And I think it probably has to do with some of the discussions we've had on Facebook back and forth. And part of it was, number one, okay, so one thing that bothered me is in referring to this change of mind that I've had, he says, well, Rust number 1 would have said this, and then Rust number 2 now says this. As if I'm not the same guy. And the other thing that bothered me is when I called Gary Johnson goofball and Jill Stein hippie chick, he went on a big rant upset at me for calling them names and such. And this is what bothers me about it. Because it's the same thing I experienced in those first few years on XM satellite. You seem to like my style just fine when I'm calling names on Kevin Sabet, Gil Kurlikowski, anybody like that. Name calling didn't seem to be an issue in my rhetoric back then. And you seem to respect that I am the guy who looks shit up and is a dedicated researcher and digs really deep into the facts and makes long, complex, analytical decisions and uses logic to disarm bullshit. That's all great when I'm tearing down Project Sam. That's all great when I'm tearing down drug prohibition. But when I apply the same tools and the same rhetoric to the political situation and come up with a decision or an analysis you disagree with, now you think I'm naive, that I'm bought off, that I'm a shill, that I've somehow been invaded by the pod people? You seem to like my style just fine when you agree with me. So if you want to abandon the show, that's fine. You want to bail, that's fine. That's cool. Look, folks, I'm sitting here in a room by myself every day talking into a microphone. I don't know how many of y'all are out there. I really don't. I have no idea. I hope show after show after show there's more of you. But it's not going to change what I think, how I talk, the way I feel, the points I make, the policies I support, the decisions I come to. What I had been hoping, because I knew making this switch would suck. I knew it. Oh man, I knew it. And some people I really respect and admire are hating on me now. Tom Angel at Marijuana Majority, Mark Emery at Cannabis Culture, Keith Saunders with the Massachusetts, with MassCan. I mean, a bunch of folks. Oh, you've given in, you've given up, you're off the other side. How could you ever support? You made all these great excuses, all these great arguments as to why he's evil, and now you've switched and blah. Yeah, because I got new information. Came to new realizations. One of the new realizations was I was dismissing, I was diminishing, I was minimizing what Donald Trump is. And, online, as I've been having this debate, when I make this point, people are like, oh, you're just giving into fear. You're giving into fear and projection. You don't know what'll happen in the future. You don't know. Oh, like, come on, folks. Really? You think there's a scenario that plays out where Donald Trump gets elected and he turns out to be great? He turns out to be a fantastic president? You can actually imagine that. No, sorry, I don't. This is so much of that false equivalence, this Democrats and Republicans are just the same bullshit, when they're not. The Democratic platform supports the rescheduling of marijuana out of Schedule 1 as part of a path to future legalization. That's what the Democratic Party stands for. The Republican Party voted down a medical marijuana plank for their platform. They can't even get majority support in their political structure for medical marijuana. And they are declaring pornography a public health menace. We got veterans with PTSD that can't smoke weed. We got an opioid crisis that would be alleviated through marijuana legalization. We got football players that are going mad and dying of CTE that could be helped by cannabis. But those aren't the public health problems. It's people masturbating to pictures on the internet. That's the problem we got to deal with. They're not the same. And that's where this vote comes down to. Yes, it's a vote between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, but it's a vote between whether Democrats or Republicans lead the country. Now, I know there's so many ways in which they're the same. Oh, I agree. I wrote those pieces, remember? I agree. Oh, you're so right. It's not fair, just, right. It's tilted for the 1%. Both parties are beholden to the military-industrial complex. Both of them are favorable to big oil. Both of them are extra constitutional in their want for executive authority, their lack of transparency in government. I can go on. I can keep making this argument. I can keep telling you how both of the parties are the same. It does not change the radical ways in which they are different. And that was another part of what got me over on this, is that I made my big list of Hillary Clinton's flaws. It got up to 35 things I don't like about Hillary Clinton. 35 things they could think of. And then I started thinking, I ought to make a comparable list for Donald Trump. And the comparable list for Trump is as long as the Hillary list, plus has a whole bunch of things in it that Hillary's far better on. This is a decision that involves the totality of the circumstances. Too many voters out there want to cherry pick. They want to say, see, she voted for the Iraq war. Can't support her. Well, as someone in my chat room pointed out, she was the senator from New York at the time when the overwhelming majority of her constituents wanted to go to war. What was she supposed to do? Now, the answer is vote to do the right thing and destroy your political career. And yeah, she could have done that. But she didn't. And it's 14 years later. The other thing that throws me on this, I love this one because this is one that I used. I used this in my 35-point list, in the 25-point list that got posted on Huffington Post as well, was how she was against gay marriage in 2004 on the floor of the Senate. But then she was for it in 2013. So she's just a political opportunist. Okay, well, for one, do you want her to stay being against gay marriage? Right? Wouldn't you want someone who is against gay marriage to be for it now? Or do you want them to stay where they were? That's where my logic started falling apart. I started analyzing my own arguments and realizing, wait a minute, Russ, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Someone in the comments of that Huffington Post one brought that one up to me, and I couldn't disagree with him. I tried to defend against it and went, wait, you know what? He's kind of right. What do I want her to be anti-gay? Do I want her to stay being against gay marriage? No, I want her to change her position. And then it started to open up as I started hearing from more gay activists that are friends of mine. Remember, I used to write for a gay and lesbian blog, who kept pointing out that, yeah, she did that in the Senate, but she also did this and this and this other thing and this other thing and this other thing that were all very pro-gay, and now she's pro-gay. If Hillary Clinton really is the poll-watching opportunist she's portrayed to be, then all we have to do to get her to do the right thing is make the right thing popular, right? There's no extra profit in being pro-gay marriage. It's not like Big Gay wrote her a $225,000 check to give a speech or something, right? There's no profit to be made. There's nobody to buy her off to now be pro-gay, could it be that she's always been pro-gay and the 2004 thing she said was the opportunism instead of the switch to being pro-gay? And again, bottom line, if my gay and lesbian friends are cool with her, and they overwhelmingly are, why am I upset about it? Similar thing about her Super Predators comments. This is, fishing all the way back to the 90s, Clinton crime bill, which she championed, and, had the famous, Super Predators need to be brought to heel remark, which is where she was referring to gangs, violent gang members, not all black people. But I was willing to jump on that too. I jumped right on that. See, how could she be good for black people when she said this terrible thing and the crime bill was terrible, blah, blah, blah. Well, understand. The Clintons didn't pass the crime bill with the express intent of creating mass incarceration and harming black people. It's not like Nixon starting the war on drugs with the stated intent of going after the black people. No. They went after the crime bill in 1994 because if you don't recall, crime was rampant in the early 90s. Throughout the late 80s and the early 90s, the policies of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush helped exacerbate crime in this country. We ended all the federal mental hospitals and then gave them nowhere else to go. So all the crazy folks ended up being criminals and we had to bust them. We had the crack cocaine epidemic, which, of course, the CIA bringing in cocaine to help fund the Contras that Reagan wanted to fund with secret off-the-books black money. So all of those things helped crime to really grow to quite substantial proportions. The Clinton crime bill was a reaction to that. And again, if my black friends are cool with her, which they overwhelmingly are, which the Democratic primary voters overwhelmingly were, why am I upset about it? Some of these people think that just because I wrote an argument, I'm going to stick with that argument forever. And I'm never going to say that. New data might come out to convince me to be against marijuana legalization. It'd have to be some really compelling data. But it could happen. I am not ironclad in anything, folks. Hey, that's all the time we got. Thanks for joining us. Stoner Jesus is up next. Stay tuned live. For everyone here at Cannabis Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers!
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed.